welcome to the One Life podcast, where we talk about things from One Life Church, but ultimately things we think can relate to you and your one and only life. My name is Sarah Inman. I'm one of your co-hosts, and I'm joined by co-host of the podcast and our lead pastor, Brett Nicholson.
That's right. We made it to 2020. Isn't that cool? Yeah, that's a great thing.
It just feels like a weird number to say, like 2020.
It does, yeah. I've heard people kind of wrestle with that, but I think it's going to stick. It is 2020.
Yeah.
And what's messing with my mind, I mentioned it in one of the sermons yesterday, I can't remember, but I remember the year 2000 shift, and the Y2K thing was going on.
Yeah.
And what's really messing with me is that was full 20 years ago.
20 years ago.
20 years ago.
I saw something, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was like, showing 2050 is as close as 1990 or something. I mean, it's just so weird to think about those things.
That's right. And back and when I was growing up, like into the 2000s at all was considered the time when you were going to be living on the moon and those kinds of things.
Flying cars.
They were throwing around the dates of 2000, this, that, and the other.
We always think about flying car. I think flying cars and video phones. And we're like, well, we kind of have video phones.
We absolutely have video phones. Yeah. And I've seen flying cars. I don't know if it's for real,
really?
But I've seen those advertised that they have them. Yeah. I kind of don't want people to have them, though, if you think about that.
Where are they going to go?
So, where are they going to go? Who's going to control that? While there's also drones around in the air when you're on commercial flights. Yeah.
That's true. So today we're going to do something a little bit different. We don't have a guest on the podcast per se, but Brett and I are going to kind of just talk about a couple of things that are going on here at One Life for the year 2020, and some things that we're doing now and some things that we're going to look forward to as a church for the rest of the year. And so if you do attend here, I think it'll relate to you a ton. And if you're not someone who attends One Life Church, I still think there's some things that will be interesting for you if you follow along with some of the things that we do, some of the things that we create. And right now, we just started a new series just this past week called Travelogue. And Brett, I was going to have you kind of just share a little bit more about what the series is, what it's about, and kind of some of the topics that we'll be going through.
Yeah, it's really about just helping people find purpose and meaning. We talked about that I mentioned there was a speaker that a friend of mine actually heard from, that he had been dealing with college students most of his career and all around the nation. And he said the number one question he's currently getting just in the last few years is, what's my purpose? More so than why does God allow suffering or creation evolution? And so there is that desire. It's kind of one of the things, I didn't mention this, that sense of purpose and meaning is one of the things that God used to save me. I mean, I had all my problems with drugs and all that kind of stuff, but it became more about not trying to get off drugs, but actually feeling like God had a purpose for my life, and pursuit of a good thing instead of trying to get over a bad thing was very significant in my own life. And so that's always been a passion of mine. And then coupled with that, we're going to do it, studying a couple chapters in the book of Acts. And my most life transformative personal series I've ever done, just from my end, just studying for it. It was at a church that I worked at before, One Life, and I was the midweek teaching pastor, and I did Acts for about 2 years.
Wow. And
it was truly transformative. It really reshaped a lot of the ways I think about things. So we're going to look at those 2 chapters. It's the first missionary journey that's recorded. It's Paul and Barnabas going throughout the ancient world. And through the metaphor of travel and them doing mission, we're going to talk about purpose in life. And hopefully it'll surface some things that help people kind of, God really does have a call on me, and how I kind of apply that to my life.
That's awesome. And I know we have an episode of the podcast coming up where we're going to share some feedback from a group that recently went to Belgrade, Serbia towards the end of 2019. Hear some of their experiences. And we have, just wanted to highlight, we have a student group that's going to be going to Belgrade, Serbia here at the beginning of 2020. And some great things, some great opportunities for high school students and leaders of high school students to go on that and be a part of connecting with church planners, which really connects a lot to the series and purpose and meaning.
It does, absolutely. Because what we've said to our church, again, if you don't go here, our mission statement is planting churches devoted to changing the secular worldview of the next generation. In 2018, we tried to focus on the next generation piece of that and build that, and we're still doing that. In 2019, we did the Centered series. We tried to focus on the change the worldview thing. And now we're in 2020, the goal is to talk about the planting churches side of that. And so we're getting that.
That's our vision statement. You said mission.
Oh, did I get that wrong?
Yeah.
Okay. She's over here laughing at me. I'm thinking, what? I have something on my teeth or whatever?
No,
so I actually got that wrong.
Yeah,
okay. Our mission statement is helping people far from God, trust, follow Jesus.
Right.
And our vision statement, our preferred future, is that one. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. But we're trying to put all that together and do planting. So people will hear a lot about planting churches, how they can be involved in that, what that means, what that looks like. And we will be talking about going on mission trips. We're planning one to Myanmar at the end of this year, and the students are going to Belgrade. And you'll hear a lot more about that kind of thing, because that's the move we're making now.
Yeah, which is really exciting. And I know, when I first started attending One Life, that was always the conversation of planting churches. And I know we had some information and data that you shared with some of the team last year about there's so many churches that need to be planted by a certain date.
And actually at the Q conference, for those of you who may not be familiar with that happens down in Nashville and another place in the country. Q is, they just do almost like TED Talks from a Christian perspective. And we're going to show a large part of a TED Talk where a guy of a study that was done that we've looked at, and he presented that at Q, and it was all about the next generation, talking about Generation Z primarily, that's young people up to I think age 22 right now, that if we don't triple the number of church plants within the next 30-year period, that in essentially they'll be lost. They will not come to Christ in the same way that other generations have for the first time in the United States history. So we want to be a part of doing the triple thing and figure out how to do that. But people around One Life will be hearing about that more and more.
And I think some of that, and this is more a question, I guess, more of that. That's not it's not. When you say planting churches, it may not be traditionally planting a church like we think of now. It could look at partnering with someone who's doing something and they're planting and planting with them, or ideas of things that we've done as well.
Yeah, we're going to, one of the things that there's a lot of different ways of looking at church planting and being involved with it. And we've kind of expanded our view of that. It used to be we just wanted to do sites, One Life sites, but now we're a lot more interested, and we want to do that, but we are a lot more interested in doing innovative things like virtual church planting, where people can do church in their living room and kind of come under. We're looking at those kinds of things. Also, revitalizing current churches is considered a part of that tripling. If you revitalize a church that's been kind of stagnant or plateaued for the last many years, and you get it growing again, or just get it to a whole new sense of mission again, that would be the same effect as planting a church. So we want to partner with that and do anything we can. We want to partner with other churches in our area to help them. And also we've partnered with a church planting group out in New York that we've supported the whole 9 years pretty much that we've been here, and we want to raise that. And then Uncharted International is devoting itself completely to church planting in least reached countries. So it's all kind of the combination of those things at once, not just the sites.
It's awesome. And it kind of leads to something that we want to celebrate that'll be happening in 2020. And it almost feels like a church plant is starting a second service at our West Campus. And in a sense of being able to say we want to continue to grow and continue to create space for people to come in and have a place where they can feel like they can connect and grow in faith. And so that's going to be happening in March, which is really exciting.
Yes. And there's a team there that has, we decided, we knew we were going to emphasize the church planting thing in 2020. And a team there has treated the new service like you would if you were planting a new church. In other words, we're not just going to add a service. What we want to do is restudy our community. You kind of go through this mental exercise where you pretend, what if we weren't from this community and were to go into the community and plant a church? What are some of the things that we would do? And so they're asking those questions, and they're going to be inviting people, and it's going to be like a miniature church plant inside that campus. And then the other campuses will get behind it as well. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, we're excited to celebrate that for sure. And then that'll be going into a series that is about relationships and an invitation culture, kind of getting back to the invitation culture series. Right now, I think the title of it is Friends.
I think it'll probably stay that way too. It's all about relational excellence, because we are going to talk about invitation. One way you can participate in church planting is invite people to church now, because that growth and that impact gives us the ability to, plant other ones. And so we're going to do a series that's easy to invite people to. We're calling it Friends. I think it's going to stick. Yeah. Is that good enough? I mean,
I love it. It's still topical. People are upset right now because Friends is no longer on Netflix. It's moving.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's right. We are going to fill that gap.
We're going to try.
That's right. And then, so it's easy to invite people to, because it'll be about relational excellence. Everybody wants that. And it's not just marriage, but a lot of people struggle in their relationships with coworkers or maybe just their friends, how to have higher quality relationships. So it'll be easy to invite people who don't necessarily go to church on a regular basis to come. That's what we're going to talk about at our church. You can do that, and that'll go all the way up to Easter.
All the way to Easter. And then out of Easter, we're doing a series so this is another thing that you guys need to know is anytime that we're talking about a series and anything going on here at One Life. I mean, we've been talking about this stuff for a long time, and there's a lot of planning and processing that goes into what we're doing. It's not just something like, oh, let's just do that. So we have most of the year kind of planned out, and we're going to tell you about most of the first half of the year. But right after Easter, we're going to a series that we've been talking about for a while. But what's that series about?
Well, Sarah, I'm glad you asked, and I'm glad you obviously didn't want to talk about what it was about. It's going to be about the problem of pornography, and we're the inside title of it. This will not be the title of it. Is the war on pornography, to make sure we're telling each other we're on the negative side of it. But what happened is that we've just been hearing more and more in our own personal stories and just in problems that people are having in their marriages, or teenagers, parents are struggling with this. The pornography issue is a major thing in our culture, and it's only getting more. And it really kicked in big time. They say back in '06 with YouTube, and just the access is on levels that most of us never fathomed back in the year 2000, that kind of thing. And so we thought, okay, it's become such an issue. We finally want to address it as honestly and as out front as we possibly can. So the week following Easter, we'll stop there. It's about it's about a 5-week run, and that's the thing we're having to plan a lot for, because it's multi-layered in its challenges. What do you do with? What do you say to children? What do you say to students? What do you say to married couples? People who do deal with it, people who don't. There's a lot of different angles. So yeah, we're having active conversations about that. But I would say I'm looking forward to it. I'm not necessarily, but I'm looking forward to the challenge of just kind of really getting honest about some very real problems that people have.
Being able to talk about stuff, I think that's something that just me, as obviously I'm on staff here at One Life, but just also just being someone who appreciates our church. We've always taken ideas and things going on in the world and talked about them in a real way, and being able to be honest about them. And so I hope that that's something that people see. It's something that we're continuing to try to do here in 2020, and talk about some things that are big deals. And so even on that, I shared this with our team a couple weeks ago. There's this really popular thing on YouTube right now where you can see videos of like the most popular, this for the last 20 years. And it's just a video that shows like a bar graph going up and down, and graphs of like, and This one was the most popular websites. I think it was from 1995 or something to 2019. And it was like, started out with like AOL, was up there, and then like MSN and, Google and YouTube were up there. And then in 2017, I think some of the pornography websites started hitting the top 10. And it's just wild to think that is
up there with like
the top
Google
10. Yeah.
YouTube. Oh my goodness. Okay.
And so it is something that is not, that's happening, and that it's something that we can't not talk about. So
exactly, and because it does impact people's lives in major ways, and so we're right now we're doing the study. It is interesting to see that out in the world, even non-Christian organizations are awakening to the problem. It's there's an organization called Fight the New Drug that they say they're not religiously based, but they are fighting that problem, because they say it really does have an impact on the mental health of people in their relationships and students. It's a true addiction. And so there's a lot of things I'm learning right now. So we do need to talk about it, and I think people will be pleasantly surprised at how relevant the Bible can be when it comes to these things.
I'm looking forward to it. So, and then we'll have the summer, and then October 10th, 2020. That is our 10-year anniversary as a church.
That's
right.
One
Life Church.
It's already been 10 years.
10 years. That's
20
awesome.
from Y2K and 10 to the start of One Life Man. Yeah.
And we on Giving Tuesday, we kind of gave an opportunity for people to join in and helping raise some money towards putting on a Because. And a Because is something that we've done here at One Life a few times as a worship night and a worship experience, and an opportunity for people to respond and worship and pray together as a community. And I think that's cool that we did raise some money, that we're able to do that.
We raised the amount of money we needed to raise, because they're not cheap. We have to rent a facility to have all 3 campuses and everybody to come out. We've done them at the Victory at Evansville. We've done one over in Henderson. We've done one at the Old National Events Plaza. And so just renting the facilities and renting the gear to go in. But everybody loves them so much. We really wanted to do that. And so we did. You guys did fantastic, those of you who gave. So we settled that issue, and now we can spend the year planning on it. We're going to do a series on worship itself leading up to it that we're hoping to go very in depth and to kind of take a creative spin on, and really help us all just develop our lives around the worship issue, and really experiencing God on a much deeper level. And that will be kind of the culmination of that as well. So yeah, that's going to be a great night. Can't wait.
I think a Because was the first One Life event I attended.
Really? Which one was it? Was it the one in Henderson? That was the very first one we did.
It was in Evansville, but I can't remember exactly where it was.
We did one at the Victory, probably was the earliest one. We used to accompany them, and we still do. We accompany them with church planting, like the very first one, because it was the first event we ever did, period, for One Life, was in Henderson. Before it was before 1010. And I'll never forget that night. It kind of gave an indication of this thing's going to be a lot of fun, because people were as rowdy as I've ever heard. And I remember at Old National Events Plaza how loud the music was. I mean, it was truly super loud, but my proudest moment was I knew how loud it was. It was pushing. We were probably hurting people's ears. It was bad. But it was my kind of place. I love that. But I could hear the voices over. I could hear the crowd singing over that volume, and that was amazing. I just love that. So.
And there's something there when you have an event like this, that it's not just something that we want to do, but it's an event that we want people to take part in and be able to create momentum from that, I think, as a community, because it's not just One Life people that show up to this. It's a lot of One Life people, but it's an opportunity to invite people. It's an opportunity for the community to have a place to come and worship and respond. And so that's what's really exciting, I think, as we talk about that.
Yeah, and we've talked a little bit more about that. We're trying to look for ways to, we're wanting to get more involved with other churches in the community and just other Christians doing things. And we were going to try to figure out how to create space for that in a more so than we have in the past at that particular cause that's coming up.
Cool. And then in November, this is probably the last thing we'll chat about, towards the end of the year, we're having an apologetics conference.
Yes.
Which I'm still learning more about, but it sounds really exciting.
That's the communications person. You might want to know about it. Okay. So one of our callings is we say we believe you can bring your brain to church, and we're supposed to be characterized by that. We want to be all about God's power and prayer and worship extravagantly, but one of our values is to bring your brain to church. And so I was just trying to pray through what can we do with that. And so the conference idea came from, I read an extraordinary book. I quoted it. I said this was the only sermon I personally liked that I did over the last year, was the one on miracles, and because I loved studying for it. And a scholar by the name of Craig Keener is over at Asbury in Lexington, and I contacted him and said, would you be willing to come over here and talk to us, because he's researched miracles from around the world, and he's going to talk about that topic. Well, we decided to turn it into a full conference Friday night, Saturday, and we're going to partner with a school here in town as well, and on our facility, and you'll be invited to come on a Friday, Saturday, and listen to Craig Keener, but also some others, to expose people. Most people don't know this kind of data is out there. Most people don't know that Craig Keener investigated miracles all over the world, and he's got stories that would blow your mind about things that happen in modern day, people being raised from the dead. It's like in the New Testament, in the book of Acts. It's not distant, but also we'll talk about why you can believe and how to defend your faith and expose people to that kind of thing as a way of contributing to the whole Bring Your Brain to Church deal. So can't wait for that either.
Man, 2020
Good
sounding
stuff.
cool.
That's right. It is. It's
sounding
cool.
great.
I'm telling you. Yeah, you'll be glad you'll be there.
Yeah. That's all the things I had on my list. Anything else pop up that?
I think one of the things that I want to just kind of alert people to, remember we did the Centered series because we were trying to get that worldview piece of our vision statement, not our mission statement, but our vision statement kind of locked down. And we want to keep returning to those films. And one of the goals we have is to produce more films like we did, and just to begin to work on getting that message out about worldview out into the marketplace. And so as One Lifers, you'll hear about that more and more, but that's why we're trying to push that out, especially in the marketplace on the internet and YouTube and everything else, as a way of changing the worldview of the next generation. But so that, and those things don't go away like the next generation thing. We're going to continue to elevate our student ministry. We're taking a new look at kids ministry stuff, and just working on that all the time to make sure we're living that vision statement.
Yeah. And you can find all the videos and the content that we created for Centered at onelifechurch.org/centered. That's available there right now, and you can check out the videos and any of the content that we had for discussion with it as well. So, Brett, I'm excited about 2020. We're here.
I am. That's right. And all it took was this conversation. We made it here. Yeah. Back in 2000, we didn't know if we would, because Y2K was a thing, and, and everything was going to shut down. So I'm glad to be here.
Maybe it did. Maybe we're all just dreaming. No, just kidding.
That's right, yeah.
Guys, if you have any questions of anything coming up or anything you want to ask us here at the podcast, you can always email us at podcast@onelifechurch.org, or check out onelifechurch.org or the One Life app, and then you can find out events or anything coming up right there. So thank you guys so much for joining us, and we will see you next week. We're going to have a conversation with a friend talking about a prayer movement that's going to be happening in our area, which is pretty exciting.
Very exciting.
Very exciting.
Especially for 2020.
Yeah, 2020. See you guys next week. We'd love to hear from you guys. You can email us at podcast@onelifechurch.org. You can leave a comment on YouTube or on Apple Podcast or anywhere you're listening to this podcast. We'd love for you guys to share that out. Let more people hear this great content and have an opportunity to continue that conversation even further. Our music was produced by Micah Robertson and Ben Brock. My name's Sarah, and I produced this episode.